and welcome to the Writing Gals. We are so excited to have Jocelyn on our show today from Autocrit. We are super excited to dive into what Autocrit can do for authors. But first, we're going to talk about what we've been up to. So, do you want to start, Michelle? What have you been up to?
I've been up to my daughter graduating, kids getting out of school, having a kidney stone, being in the hospital, going on vacation, and basically very little writing. But I was able to get about 2,000 words in yesterday, and I am 2 to 3 chapters away from finishing my rom-com. So I hope to get that done by next week, and then I can dive into one of the other projects that I've been late on for a long time. But I'm having fun with life regardless, and we're gearing up with a lot of fun things with the Writing Gals. So that's kind of taking a little bit of my focus too, as we're working on our Writing Gals Academy and the Writing Gals Conference. So we've got a lot going on just with that too.
Yes, we do. I'm so excited for the conference. You guys have been going over the class proposals and we've been, figuring out which ones we're going to do and just getting super excited about all of the awesome things that we're going to have for our conference. I have also been writing on my rom-com that I put away 2 years ago and haven't really worked on. So I am really close to getting the last few chapters done with that. And I'm super excited about that. And then I'll go back to my angel book because I still have that pressing need to get that one worked on too. So I'm not totally laying that one aside. I'm just working on this rom-com to get it done. And then go back to my angel book. Just really excited about all the things that we're planning for the Writing Gals as well. And Jocelyn, you guys have been up to some pretty cool things, I hear, with Autocrit. What have you been doing lately?
We have been busy bees. We have been busy bees, and it's very exciting. I feel like the momentum of the industry is just rolling right now in so many different ways and from so many different directions. And as a tool provider, right, as we like to think of ourselves as an inspirer, an enabler, a confidence builder, in so many different perspectives. We're just kind of soaking it all in and trying to figure it out so that we can bundle it up and give the writers the tools that they need to really get their stories out and polished and just connected, right? Just connected with their readers. So it's been a really exciting time for, I think, the industry. It sounds like it's been a really exciting time for a lot of authors, and it's been we're really glad to be part of that process.
That is awesome. Can you give us like an overview of what Autocrit is and what it does?
Absolutely. So Autocrit really started as from feedback, right? So you go to, a brand new writer comes in and they write their first story, and they take it to a writer's group or they start to get feedback. And it was like, you should do this, you should do that. What about this? You shouldn't do that, whatever. So if you think of it conceptually of, our history, and, I'll talk a little bit about where it goes, but we really started as manuscript editing software that is going to find those things. It started at a very elementary perspective. So you shouldn't have too much backstory. Your pacing should, it should be staggered, not clumpy, right? And slow paced paragraphs. You shouldn't use any adverbs, right? Any adverbs perspective, and we'll get to that in a second. How about your tense shifts? How do you make sure that your tenses are different, that your tenses are correct if you're shifting back and forth? And what about dialogue? Do you use adverbs in dialogue? Do you just use said and asked? All these writing rules that are out there. And so we kind of took all of that and built it into a tool where you could self-edit your work and really learn from the process, right? So our goal is not just that individual book that you're editing, but by going through that process, you're learning, right? So the next time you write, your subconscious and your conscious knows that I've got to beat the system, right? It's going to pull out these adverbs. It's going to tell me where I've got these pieces. So as you continue to use the tool, while I love that it helps you work on that one specific piece, what I love even more is that it's a tool to help you become a better writer. And that's really where it all started, and it's evolved over time. And so I'll go back to my adverbs example. So Stephen King, this is my favorite example. It says the road to hell is paved with adverbs, right? Do not use adverbs. But I will ask you guys, I mean, do you really think in 80,000 words, the average size of a book, that you shouldn't use any adverbs at all, right?
Absolutely not. You're going to have some in there, right?
Right? So what's that balance, right? How do you take that perspective of what a writing role is to what that means in your work, right? And so we tried to answer that, and we started studying books, lots of books, lots and lots and lots of books, and in order to kind of figure out what that right answer is. And so we built in these profiles in the Autocrit system so that you can actually see by a comparison perspective of how your adverb usage in this example would compare to Stephen King, would compare to the romance genre as a whole, would compare to Danielle Steele, would compare to a whole series of authors and genres that we baked in, because they're not all the same and there's no right or wrong answer, right? Like, we're not focused on highlighting things that are wrong in your work, right? We're here to give you a lens for you to really look at your work in a different way based on what we found that works, right? What we found that works. And again, you're not trying to mimic anybody, right? But we're giving, our goal and mission on the editing side is to really help you look at your work in a different perspective. And you might say, yes, Autocrit highlighted this word or phrase or sentence or paragraph as something to look at. And I might look at it and say, yep, that's exactly how I wrote it. It got my point across because it's short and snappy, or it's long, or I use this word choice. And just going through that process is fabulous, right? Because we're all so used to our own writing that we want to give you another way to kind of look at it. And so that was really the second evolution, where we went from like finding the writing roles to giving you the perspective of the industry. And since then, we've continued to grow and to really expand where we are in helping you with the process. So if you think of everything I've just talked about, you have to have an idea, you have to write it, and you have to get to that editing stage to kind of use what we have. And we've gone uh, more of a full suite process now, where we have our brand new inspiration studio, which you guys are like the first outside of Autocrit to hear about it. So it's like a just this week type of thing. So we're very excited to kind of really bust that writer's block, both when you're writing and when you're coming up with story ideas and plotting, even if you're a pantster, and go from there. We have note cards built in so that you can now take those story ideas from our help or that you come with and organize those. And we have our writing so it's right there where you can write, and obviously our editing tools that come together, as well as our education and our author services that we offer. So now we're more of a full platform: planning, writing, editing, education, and services to help you really get that book out to the world.
I love that.
What did you say the name of that new feature was?
The Inspiration Studio.
You want to tell us more about that, because it sounds really neat.
I can tell you, or I can show you if you'd like to hear about it.
Yeah, let's do. Do you want to share your screen?
Absolutely. Perfect. Oh, you've already got it up. Okay. So I can't see you, but you can see my screen. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we've got the Autocrit dashboard here.
Yeah.
So Autocrit, this is just a little bit of a walkthrough of how we're organized, right? So if you come into Autocrit, As a free or paid member, you'll come to kind of this screen. So you can kind of see a little bit about all the events that we have going on and Community Academy. But we're going to kind of jump over to our writer's desk. And I'm going to go right into kind of our story idea planner that we have now. This is part of our inspiration studio. And this is from the perspective that I don't have an idea or I have an idea that I want to start. So this is not even tied to an actual file that I'm writing. But I'm going to come in and I'm going to plot out my story. And what we see here is the story builder. So you can come in and put your premise. We have some world building features, character building features, and then a couple of different beat sheets that are organized in here. So obviously the most kind of common would be more of a plot centered beat sheet. And so it's really an area where you can come and, really fill in the blanks so that you can, you can kind of plot out your book. We also have a couple of different beat sheets. So I know a lot of the focus with this crowd is really on the romance side. So we've got a romance beat sheet. Character intro, meet cute, debate, the shift, B story, etc. And so this is kind of the initial structure for what we have going on. So really the way that this works is that we have integrated, the AI work at this point. Now, Autocrit is not generating text. I want to be very clear for you. We're not going to write for you, but we're here to, with the Inspiration Studio to help you generate ideas. And so I could come in and I could write my own premise, or I could have the system kind of start to give me ideas on a premise. And I could come in and I could start to edit it. And this is really designed to be a tool to work with you, right? Again, this is not one to go and write for you. But I don't like that one. I'm going to come up with here with a new one. I can edit that. And then I could just work my way down. This is a very linear approach that I'm working kind of through right now. So maybe I want to come in and see what ideas it might have for the protagonist, right? So as I work through this, it's going to read anything else that's actually on this page and continue to build that out. So you'll see that this was about a natural disaster and few remaining survivors. So when I asked it to help me generate the protagonist of Emily, she lost her family in the disaster, right? So it knows that that was what was happening, and it will continue to build on it. Again, you can kind of come in here and give it as much information as you wanted. So if you have all your characters and your premise already filled out, then fill it out. It's going to continue to give you better and better examples because it's taking whatever on the page. And so you can really use this as a story builder to, okay, let's just, it's a desolate landscape. Emily walks alone amid the destruction. Oh, I don't like that. I'm going to go and make my own opening image. I can just delete that, or I can generate a new idea from that perspective. So we have this new story builder that kind of is an enabler for both you and the, kind of the assistant to come in and take a look at that.
So it sounds like a friend you can bounce ideas off of and say, what do you think an opening scene might look like? And they could give you ideas and you can be like, yeah, I like that. Or no, I don't like that idea. And
Exactly.
You won't hurt this friend's feelings.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's really our story builder piece. And again, it's like all about, the idea generation piece of it, right? It's like you should never get stuck anymore with kind of plotting that out. We also have so that's kind of like I don't have an idea. we have a couple of other things that we're bringing into the Inspiration Studio. So I've actually gone into a file with some text of a story that called The Watch that's being worked on in this scenario. This is a regular text builder, rich text editor. These are all of our kind of editing reports, which hopefully we'll touch on, but there's the new one called Inspiration. And what this does is it has you have the story builder here, which you can tie a specific build to, like we just saw. But it also has this what happens next and change the mood. So say I'm writing here and like, I don't really like where I've taken this, or maybe I don't have anything after that. What it's going to do, it's going to like start to read back a little bit. And then you select this, what happens next. It's not going to read the whole story, right? So it's not going to, have the context of everything, but it's going to give you options of ideas, right? So let's see, with each step, her determination grew, fueled by the flicker of hope that had been ignited. The pocket watch was a key, a portal to a world beyond the confines of time. And so if you wanted to heighten tension, maybe suddenly the door to the attic slammed shut with a loud bang. Or you wanted to reveal character motivation, and she was determined to find her father. Or an unexpected plot twist. Oh, she took the plunge into time travel. Oh, I don't like that plot twist. Give me another one. You can just go and get other ideas on that. So we're trying to give you ideas like, heightened tension, outlandish, right? Something crazy, which the pocket watch's surface grew bigger until it enveloped her entirely into a cocoon. Okay, well that sounds kind of crazy. It is outlandish, but that might spur another idea that you have. And so it's really kind of a fun tool, again, to make sure that you're never at a stopping block because you don't know kind of where you're going. Does all that make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
And then we also have one called kind of change the mood. So again, this is looking back, based on where your cursor position is, and maybe, maybe you want to add one of these emotions. So maybe you want to add some fear, and you want the person to feel maybe insecure. And we'll just leave it at that, right? At any level, you can go and generate some ideas. And again, it's an idea generator that will give you some options of what you could do. So you could add sensory details or descriptive language using words like terrified or paralyzed with fear. Or you could create an ominous atmosphere if you want to add that feeling of insecurity. But no, I kind of want to change it to more of a happy or an optimistic view that's hopeful. And again, it's going to kind of read back and give you a couple of different options on where you could go with that. So very different, right? So we were ominous before, and now we're excitement. And adding memories about her father, that could be, a hopeful perspective, or uplifting imagery. So it's really just kind of a fun little tool to play with. And we have it built in where, if I like some of these ideas, I can kind of copy those to a note, either all of the options or an individual option. And we have our kind of notes option right in the Autocrit tool. So I can go and I can see that note. Here's the option 1, option 2, option 3. I can add, I can do lots of things with my notes, right? So this is a fully functional planning tool. So you can add images, you can tag them, you can make the notes different colors. You could drag and drop if you have lots of different notes, and then your options are kind of sitting right next to you. If I wanted to go back and, oh, well, what did they say? I can just kind of look to the right and go from there. So you can plan or not plan as much as you want, as you're writing. But our goal, again, kind of where I started this, is that, you have everything you need at your fingertips to kind of plan, write, and edit.
Cool. So that's almost like a step beyond a thesaurus, where you're like trying to search for a word, but you don't even know what word you want to search for. So it kind of helps you in that way.
Exactly, which you kind of led me right into that. The other smart thing that we integrated is our thesaurus, right? So
Nice.
the yearning to find her father overwhelmed. And so let me just close out the notes to give us a little bit more space. And we do have a thesaurus right here. Now, this is a smart thesaurus with our latest upgrade this week that will read again the sentence that it's in and try to give you a word that is relevant to that sentence. So our previous thesaurus would have given you like 50 different options for overwhelmed, right? So we're trying again to kind of narrow it down based on the context, you know, also based on the it's going to give it to you in the right tense most of the time. So instead of overwhelm, you know, instead of submerge, it's going to give you submerged. So it's more of a cleaner uh, well, that's not probably a good. I just read that sentence, but that's probably not a good choice of that. But you kind of get the idea from where we're going there.
Nice. Very good.
Next, they need to just have like where you put a symbol in and it helps you find a word to even start from. I always put brackets like when I just can't even find like a starting place for the word I'm looking for.
Oh,
and then
interesting.
I have to remember to go back and take my brackets out and figure out that word. But it's really cool. I wonder, like when you say that, like it's a smart thesaurus and it reads the whole sentence, if you could start with like even close to an idea, but it's off base, it's still gonna find some ideas for you probably.
Exactly.
Really
So
cool.
it's coming with a little bit of perspective, right? Like again, there's not a right or wrong, but hopefully you know the words that it's providing are much more relevant to the context that you're looking for. So
Yeah.
I'm
usually just turning to somebody, what's that word? You know, it means this. And when somebody's doing this, and you kind of like, but
Yep.
like Victorine said, it's just that writing partner right there with you all the time.
Exactly. We and 24/7, right? So if you're you know you're in the middle of the night doing a night and there's nobody around, so like, you know, you can get that perspective. So
that's great.
That's awesome.
So yeah, that's all the new stuff, right? This has been very exciting to kind of bring this in, and the response has been great, right? Because people should really have no excuse. I don't know where to go. You know, at least we're going to give you some ideas. So keep writing. More words on the page, right?
Well, and I love that idea of the fill in the blank thing, because a lot of times when I have a story idea, I know where I want my story to go, but I don't know all the missing pieces yet. And that helps you just put it all out on the page and see, okay, here's what's missing from my story idea. So I need to think about this aspect of it or that aspect of it.
Exactly. And, you know, the way that I approached this was very linear, where you had the premise already, but you can really start anywhere, right? Like if you want to start with, well, let's go to romance, for example, right? You know, if you kind of have some ideas for like the overall beats that you want, you can start to put those in, and then it'll start to give you ideas. So okay, well, how would I bring in a relationship character of that based on how you have already filled this out? So you don't have to start at the beginning, right? It's going to look at all of these are going to look at any spot on that page. So in the example that you provided, you know, maybe you have kind of the overall arc figured out, but you know, there's some holes or you're just looking for ideas, then fill out as much as you can and then start to really play with it. And the more detail that you can give it, the more it's going to be relevant to the information that you have. Very
cool. I like that.
I also really like the idea generation, because one of the tips I give authors a lot when they're either dealing with a plot that is dragging, or when they feel a problem but they can't figure out what it is, or like you said, where they're having writer's block, is to not be locked into their first idea of how a story should go, and to start thinking of other things that they could do in a scene besides their, you know, original intention or what they originally wrote. And that sometimes just triggers excitement. It triggers you to understand what went wrong in your plot beforehand. And so this is like, it's just a great way to help authors with that kind of tip that I always like to give them, that, you know, even if you think you know what's right or you think you know what you wanted, sometimes just looking at different possibilities can trigger something better.
Exactly. And that's why I really think the combination of all three together, right, can work really well, because the story builder is kind of independent at that kind of, higher level direction. And then these two give you kind of like that more detailed, you know, just in this scene, I'm kind of looking back a little bit and looking at ideas. So you can kind of do it at multiple levels and then, actually have them work hand in hand. And
Wonderful.
also, what we're seeing some feedback is that working well for series as well. So you could actually save your story builder. And so, I have this example of creature feature, for example. But if I had all of my characters built out, then maybe I would just want to create a copy of this. And I can easily kind of go and create a copy, delete a bunch of stuff. I don't have to go in and rebuild all of that. And then I can work on, book 2, or quite frankly, a different version of it. Maybe you're halfway in and you just want to play around. Like you can do multiple versions of the same thing very simply, and it kind of just really use it as a brainstorming tool.
Very cool. Someday, what I want AI to do is to read all the previous books in my series. So when I'm writing book 8 and I say Emily has blue eyes, it can go, nope, you said in book 2 she has brown eyes.
Right? Keep you honest, right?
That's my dream for the future.
Noted. Okay.
I have just a couple of quick questions. I'm
Yes.
curious how this works for co-writers. Is there a way to like share an account or merge accounts?
We don't have a collaboration feature at this point. So it's something that's definitely on our list. But right now we're kind of one-on-one. We can, if there's a specific project or something, we could, look at different options, but as out of the box per se, it's something that we are working on diligently.
And how about, do you have an app for Autocrit?
Autocrit, we don't have an actual app in the App Store. However, it is mobile optimized. So you can just hit the website from a phone or a tablet size, and you can go and write and do editing from both of those devices. So
That's really
kind of the
nice.
way.
Yeah, that's great to know.
Yes.
Sometimes you're in line at the thing and you're like, I have an idea
I have an
for
idea.
my next thing and I want to put it in my book, and you don't have it.
Exactly,
Yes,
right? No excuses anymore, right?
That's right.
There are quite a few there are quite a few mobile sites or sites that aren't mobile friendly. So I'm glad that you pointed that out, where it's just really hard to navigate it from your phone, especially pertaining to writing programs and platforms. So
yeah, and it's a little bit, I'll be honest, when we haven't really dove into the editing side, which hopefully we will kind of next year, but you kind of have to see both both things next to it. But we think we figured out a way to kind of work with your phone with that, so that you can even edit. I assume more people are writing on their phone, which is a slam dunk. There's no problem with that. It just gets more complicated when we have highlights and all of that kind of stuff next to it. So but yes, we're right there with you as far as being able to access on phone and tablet.
And then when we're talking about the editing side of things, are you able to customize sort of what it looks out for with your particular work?
Yes, to a certain extent. Let me dive in a little bit, and if that's okay, and kind of tell you our approach to how we do the editing, and then I can kind of option into the customization options if that's
Perfect.
helpful.
Thank you.
Great. So what I have up right now, again, I just have their demo file. Every account, free account and paid, both all have access to this demo file. We just have the Wizard of Oz because there's no copyright issues, and it's a fun one to kind of look at. And so I opened the demo file, and I have the Wizard of Oz in here. We have a couple of just features that I'll point out, that we will auto find your chapter when you have chapter. You can kind of go to those chapters. We have bookmarks if you want to create a bookmark and put a little note by what it is, or this is where I left off, or whatever. So that's kind of all integrated from that perspective. Um, there's some other features. We have a text reader. You can kind of, you want to hear it read back to you, you can just highlight it and it'll kind of read that back to you. But when we really get into the editing features, I want to start with something very simple, which is kind of how I started, which was the adverbs. So we have a little over, I think we're around 30 different reports now, and we have them broken up into a couple of different categories. Our summary report, which we'll go to after this, pacing, momentum, dialogue, strong writing, word choice, repetition, readability, and then the inspiration studio, which we talked about. Under strong writing, we have adverbs. And again, this kind of goes to, do I really have 80,000 words without any adverbs? And what this will do is we'll just go and show all. So I can go and quickly see where all my adverbs were. And it gives you that kind of perspective that we talked about on if that's good or bad. And so you can kind of look at different authors or genres. So if we wanted to just look at the romance genre, then it will kind of rerun, and we can see that number changed on how many the average romance book would have in the number of adverbs. So if I was comparing to romance, I would be a little bit higher. So again, it's pretty close, so it's not crazy. Like sometimes you'll see these all over the board, but again, it gives you that perspective. In addition to kind of looking overall, we also look at each individual word. And so we see here that, nearly is maybe a problem word that even if I'm in the range of okay number of adverbs, like I might have a nearly problem or a carefully problem at an individual word level. And so in this perspective, I want to just look at nearlies. I can just select that box. I can click on nearly, and it's going to jump in my file to every selection of nearly where I can go in and make an edit on that, and then rerun, and that will update. But it's kind of looking at everything in that perspective, and I can go, and like I said, maybe I want to change to Danielle Steele. Let's see what her adverb usage is. So it's a little bit more than the average romance in general in comparison. So it always fluctuates based on how many words and the work that you have in there to give you that kind of detailed perspective. So that's adverbs. Does all of that making sense so far?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Great. And then we have, tense consistency, and I haven't forgot about your customization. I'm going to get there. Maybe you wanted to look at your tenses, right? And so I can just look at what's in past tense, what's in present, and what's in future tense. So I can kind of, highlight everything and then scroll down and, oh, well, why is it changing? Oh, well, maybe it's dialogue. And I can actually select this highlight dialogue. And so it's going to do a light gray behind all of your dialogue, because in this specific one, I've seen that I've shifted from past to present tense, but that's okay because she's talking in dialogue, right? So that's a quick win to say, okay, can I scroll through and make sure that I have no issues there? The other time that we kind of use this dialogue sometimes is kind of actually, I'll go back to adverbs, for example. So, obviously when you write dialogue, you can be a little bit more conversational in it and don't have to be as strict to the rules. However, I didn't want to just, ignore if it's within dialogue. I still think an adverb is an adverb is an adverb, so you should know about it. So, you can see that this adverb, for example, was within your dialogue, and that might be one that you're okay with because it's a speaking one versus a prose portion of it, if that makes sense.
I think that's a great distinction to make.
Yes.
Great. So we have like I said, filler words, initial pronouns and names. Did you start all of your sentences with a pronoun or a name, right? So Dorothy, let's see, Toto, Dorothy, Toto, etc. Again, you can kind of look at this, but if you're not varying how you're constructing your sentences, and like we've seen some that every sentence was starting with with the name of the character or a pronoun. This one isn't too bad, but it really makes you look when you can just scan quickly and see where, again, things are bunched together or kind of spread out. Power words is going to kind of give you the tone of your, so like this, let's see. So this is like a fear area, right? So the wicked, slave, mistake. So you've got a lot of fear in this section with a little bit of encouragement. So what we've taken is kind of power words in different categories. So if you're trying to get a tone of a specific area, a specific scene, it's a great one to kind of see what it's coming up with. This actually looks pretty boring because it doesn't evoke any emotion that we've been able to find out of that. So, even this having nothing pop up might be something to look at. Again, another kind of tool in the toolbox for you to see, kind of get that feeling for what the reader is looking at or not.
Yeah, I like that.
And then let's look at repetition. I'm going to go in a little bit to the customized options here, right? So our repetition, we have two different reports. This is repeated words. This is going to be where you use the word too close together, right? So this isn't every time I've used the word for. It's the fact that I used for in the word for within two sentences.
Yes.
Two sentences. Here, this is a great example. Gray, 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 gray. Oh my gosh! Okay, yeah. We should be able to look at that, right? So we have a customized option here on your customize your word list. So maybe maybe you want to exclude certain words. So if I was okay with the word gray, I can actually go and just add the word gray, and then it's not going to actually show up when I rerun this report because I have excluded that. Or maybe I have a word that I want to include, right? So you can actually build your own full report, and maybe you have an emotion word, or you always write the word baked or something like that.
I use the word moment way too much. I've recently figured out.
This would be the perfect. You can go and put the word moment in, and then you can go back to a word choice. Actually, where's your personal words? Personal words and phrases. I went too far. So now I have a moment. It looks like you could create your own report with whatever words you want, and we'll still compare it to Danielle Steele, and we can find every indication of the word moment that you had. So you don't have to worry anymore if you know what your words are.
That's amazing.
That's cool.
So yes, there are some customized options. We have a character report, so you can actually detail out your character names, so you can find those words to exclude and words to include.
So to ask a little bit deeper on this, so is this sort of something you have to build with every individual story, or is it customization that might track across your different stories for you?
Yeah, right now it's based on a per file level. Mm-hmm. So if you would, I think
Could you possibly copy it over?
you can export the word list.
Oh, okay, there you
and
go.
then re-import it into another. So it's going to put it in a CSV, and then you can re-import it
That works great.
when you
Yeah.
put it in there. So eventually we'll probably have something a little slicker, but
that's nice because if you're working on a romance, you probably have different problematic words than if you're working on a fantasy or something. And so authors who work on different genres, that would be helpful too.
Exactly.
Yeah, like smirking and eyebrows and things like that.
Exactly. So you've got your list, huh?
Yeah.
You've got your list.
Yeah. Everybody's going to know what Michelle writes too much.
So let me show you so we've got kind of went detailed first, and I want to try to take a step back and show you a little bit of our summary report. This is kind of the 30,000 foot view. And it kind of gives you that perspective of where you are and really from a tracking perspective. So please do not think of this as a grade or a pass fail or something like that, right? This is definitely more of a tool to use, and it's also a great way to track progress over time. So as you're coming in of, this is where I started, and this is where I want to get. It's again a tool in the toolbox to make that happen. And the way that we've kind of developed this is that we have two different ways you can look at this. We've kind of taken our knowledge from all the research that we've done over the years, right? And said, this is kind of the baseline of what we think is good, right? Good, average, what we're seeing from that perspective. And we've kind of put that with the author or genre that you've selected. So if you remember a few minutes ago, we looked at Danielle Steele. So she's up here, and we could change her again just from here if you wanted to do someone else, and you're going to get a different score, right? But this is this one is the combination of kind of our analysis plus Danielle Steele. And then we also have, forget what Autocrit has to say. I just really want to do pure comparison with how how she writes, for example. And so as you work through this, you have those two options, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So in this scenario, The Wizard of Oz would rank at a 67.1. We find, you definitely don't want to get to 100, right? Like that's not the goal. People who have used the tool for a long time kind of find their sweet spot of where they like, most of what we're finding is in the average of around the, modern day stuff is in, I hate to even say it, but, upper 70s to low 90s, kind of 80s is kind of a good range to be in general. But, that's kind of an overall perspective. And again, it's all broken down into those categories we talked about: the pacing, dialogue, strong writing, word choice, and repetition. And so you can start to see that, Danielle Steele is actually a slower writer than The Wizard of Oz. So in this scenario, there were 20 slow-paced paragraphs. Danielle Steele would have 31 based on kind of the profile that we put in. She also has longer sentences, which obviously is a factor in, the slow pacing. Number of words per paragraph, average words per sentence. I'm not going to go into all of these. But amount of dialogue used. The Wizard of Oz has 43%. Danielle Steele would have 19%. Dialogue text, right? We're a big proponent of said, asked, or nothing, right? None of these others. So we don't feel that, whispered or hissed are great. So again, we're not telling you that you have to, but we're pulling it out saying, you should use said or asked, and here's your others. And, in a detailed report, you can find that. Again, we kind of dug into the adverbs. We have showing versus telling words, number of filler words, your tense, number of cliches. Again, this is going to kind of give you the overall perspective of the power word. So The Wizard of Oz is a kind of a combination of fear and encouragement if you look holistically. And so it's really going to kind of give you that overall perspective. And then from any of these, you can run the report and dive into into those individual reports. It's going to go and run that here.
I'm such a data nerd, so I get all excited about stuff like
Right?
that.
It's kind of fun. It's like, it's really interesting, especially as you start to use it, right? Because then it's like, oh, well, like like I mentioned at the beginning, is like by understanding some of this stuff, you're gonna subconsciously and consciously write better the more that you understand your patterns. Um, because we all use the same vocabulary, right? Like we're all, just as human beings, we're all very repetitious, and that might not be the way you want to write that story. So the more that you can learn about this, and how, what's working out there, the more interesting I think it becomes to be able to really craft that story that is going to connect with your reader. And that's kind of what we're all about.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Ooh, we having fun yet? I know I'm having fun.
Yes. We have a question, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Can you print out your story or notes onto paper from Autocrit?
Sure. So we have an export function. So you can actually export to docx. You can export with the highlights. So if you had whatever you would have on the screen. So if you had, your adverb report, where am I at? I got stuck somewhere. So if I had adverbs all highlighted, those are just warnings that this is a demo file, then I could go and export that with highlights to docx, RTF, or text, and then you would go and print from there. Of course, we want to, as much as you can do within Autocrit, but we do have all those options to manipulate your file.
That's really
great.
cool. Mm-hmm. So I think I haven't been on your site probably for too long. Like the first time I kind of checked it out, because I keep bouncing around to all the, everybody's trying to find these sweet spots for authors. Like you said, there's just so many things that can help us and support us. In fact, the last time I was on there, I think I was like comparing my word count to different authors. I had a really fun time trying to compare myself to Hemingway and Faulkner, because they were, always at each other's throats about writing style.
Right.
And yeah. But one thing I really love to see a platform that's constantly innovating and constantly adding new features and listening to their users to see what they can keep doing. And so I'm going to have fun going in and checking this all out and seeing how this can work for me, especially since I'm about to dive into more of like an epic fantasy story that is not something that I've, become really familiar with on the writing side of it, though I read it quite a bit. And I think that this would be a great way for me to really find my voice and my style in that particular genre, which I haven't, developed yet. So that's
a great use case for it, right? Especially if you're entering something new, right? So you can easily, even take something that you've already written and go through some quick comparisons, right? And even just play in the summary report, right? So, maybe you want to connect with Andy Weir and Brandon Sanderson, and it just kind of to see, overall there's a trend of this structure, this word choice, those types of things that can even set you off in the right foot if that's kind of the direction that you're going, that the reader expectations are different for that author, for that genre, so that you can keep that in mind even in the writing stage.
Absolutely. I love that. Are there any features that we didn't go over?
I think let's see, we talked about story ideas. There's tons of reports, right? I don't want to bog things down, but I think as you start to look at any of these, I didn't pull up the download file. This is a pretty short piece. We have this little eye, how it works, that it's going to walk you through with videos about the report, how we constructed it, and how to how to approach it. Again, this is one of my examples, right? Introspection and backstory is better sprinkled than dumped, right? So, keep that aware. And so kind of some quick tips and some exceptions to the rule and kind of the overall perspective is, something we want to keep kind of keep in mind. So that's at the top of any of these Autocrit pages. We also have integrated Grammarly, actually. So we're not a spelling and grammar checker. We feel that our focus is on really the craft of everything that we've spent the last 50 minutes talking about. So we've taken the approach of, kind of looking at spelling and grammar from a Grammarly perspective. So you can just kind of select it here. It's going to pop up a new window. And you can go through and accept or dismiss the Grammarly suggestions. If you have a pro Grammarly account, you can connect that through here. But this is kind of the kind of open version of it. So that's a new feature as well for us. In the last, I don't even know, but it hasn't been long.
Cool.
So that's there. We talked about text reader, the highlight dialogue. I love that feature because that's just a lot of fun. And then, we talked about notes and all those types of things. Outside of the system, I do kind of want to give a shout out to the rest of Autocrit. So Autocrit members get access to like a full calendar. So actually like I said, we're kicking off Inspiration Studio to our users. We have another session just diving into that tonight. We've got Accountability Club. We've got a horror writing class starting next week, the Fantasy Club. So we've got clubs that are part of membership as well, and member events that we have all the time. We've got our own community, academy, and then author services that include things like first chapter reads, story doctor sessions, pitch appraisals, etc. So you can kind of get to everything from right within the platform there. So yeah, there's just a lot going on, and we're very excited to be just really part of this industry.
Well, yes, that just sounds amazing. So if anybody was interested in checking out Autocrit, where would they go?
So you can obviously go to autocrit.com. You can join for free. We do have a free version. It is locked down. The Inspiration Studio, the summary report, and a number of other reports are, but it is open as a free account user to a select number of reports and our notes. So that's a great way to get started. I guess I probably should have sent this to you ahead of time. I do have a special link for $1 for 14 days if anybody wants to try it.
Nice.
I'm not sure how do I get that out to you?
Do you have a
comments
on the? Oh yeah, you could do a private chat, and I can get it from there.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, I thought we'd open it up for the $1 for everybody attending here. It's unlimited access for pro membership. We really only have 2 levels of membership. It's free or professional. I don't want to really play any games as far as different levels, and all new upgrades are always included.
Nice.
And so the Inspiration Studio just made the value of membership even more worthwhile. And we'd love to have new members join us, be part of our community. It's really a lot of fun.
Great.
And so thanks for the promo of the $1 offer.
That's awesome. So that link will get them the $1 for
14. It's a intro offer so it's $1 for 14 days, and then it will renew at the $30 a month. We also have an annual offer for $144 for the year, which you can get off the autocrit.com/pricing. It's directly from there. So that it only comes out to $12 a month if you purchase at the annual price. But if you want to get started, we'd love to have you come in any way that you can. And we're always around, right? That's the other piece is the bottom right corner of any Autocrit page, both front or if in the app, we have chat support 7 days a week, not quite 24 hours a day, but there's always kind of somebody monitoring. So, we're not there to leave you hanging. And, obviously the community is great at helping to answer questions as well. And we're really, we're a really small team. We're very approachable. We want to be there to help celebrate your success. That's the end. The end goal is to be part of it, to help celebrate your success. So.
Well, this was so great. Thank you so much for coming on to the Writing Gals. And I loved everything that you said. And it sounds so great.
Thank you so much.
Check it out with my own stuff. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
You have a great week, and we'll see everybody next time on the Writing Gals.
Awesome.